Thank you very much, Mr. Mariwala, for the invitation from FICCI to address this very august gathering. And thank you also very much for this Benami plantation of trees that you are doing on our behalf. Mr. Kanoria, Chief Justice Verma, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever we speak to the community of entrepreneurs or businessmen, they have a legitimate interest in politics to the extent that it deals with governance. And I'm saying this because one of the great strengths of Indian economy has been the quality of entrepreneurship we have in India. And ever since we unshackled that entrepreneurship, we've seen the positive gains. And therefore the industry, the chambers, have always a legitimate expectation as to how the roadblocks in the decision-making process can be removed. So we always hear words like constructive opposition, cooperation between the government and parties in opposition on economic issues. And obviously, a subject like this kind also is born out of that bona fide desire that if we can set aside the problems of Indian polity and the quality of politics and move more on a debate on issues of governance, perhaps the quality of politics itself would be impacted. But then we live in a real world, not in a utopian society. And therefore, the evolution of politics in any democracy has its own history. For democracies to survive in developed countries where people have actually tasted the fruits of development is never challenging. But when democracies were toppling all over the world in the 50s, the 60s, and more than half the world was under some form of dictatorship, either ideological or military or individual, we had to grapple with a deprived society where people had not tasted the fruits of development and still strengthen our democracy. So the task before us was always more challenging. And for a country of our size, which has different regions, communities, religions, castes, tribes, languages, to hold them together, parliamentary democracy became perhaps the best suited for the circumstances. It was a system where all kinds of aspirations could get into parliament and become a part of the decision-making process of the country. The sense of involvement, the sense of inclusiveness, at least politically, was strengthened by the system. Now, the first 20-odd years, there was imprint of the freedom movement, and we obviously worked as a parliamentary democracy with smaller parties, but there was one principal party. And since the agenda was nation building, the electorate also had shown a lot of maturity in concentrating on a stability in governance. But there is something which is always common between politics and nature. They both abhor any form of vacuum. And therefore, we could indefinitely not continue as a democracy where you had a party in government which had very tall leaders, and you almost had, if not a near vacuum, an inadequate space for the opposing viewpoint. And that was the strength of Indian democracy, that this opposing viewpoint started developing in the 60s. It developed within Parliament, it developed outside Parliament. And I think in the evolution of coalitions in India, these stages are of very marked importance. And how much we may want issue-based politics to come, coalitions became a reality which we could not wish away. So 1967 saw coalitions. The 70s saw a greater challenge to a hegemony of one party. It almost, that one party, shaken by the kind of response or the opposition, in fact made it an aborted attempt to make sure that even democracy does not survive in order to perpetuate its power. And I think the next defining moment was the early 90s. Now, in the chambers and the industry, you always consider early 90s as the defining moment from the point of view that a process of economic liberalization started. But there were other processes also starting. Now, there was a strange repolarization across the country which has taken place of political forces. The age of a single party rule, at least for the present, almost came to an end in the early 90s. Now, one of the factors which contributed to this was that before the 90s, in the earlier eras, including 1969, including in the 50s, when splits in the Congress party took place, the vote remained with the Congress party. The splinter groups could never take the vote away. What happened in the late 1980s was the first split where even a large section of vote went away. And from a party which used to get 300, 350, 400 seats in Parliament, 112 to 200 became the target since then. And it's almost been continuously since then. They lost a large section of the vote. Now, since the early 90s, and I'm not getting into the governance and the social justice component, but the impact on politics was that caste started playing a much bigger role. Structured parties almost got dismantled, many of them. So if you see the post-1990 creation of new political parties in India, these are not structured parties as you have in Western democracies, which will have an inner party democracy where there'll be a mechanism of electing a leader. The entire system was that there'll be one charismatic leader belonging to a region or a community. He is the decision-making authority. There are no structures within the party. He'll be charismatic. There'll be no inner party democracy. There would be increasing number of cases where he could even have serious allegations of corruption. And these may not even impinge upon his political base. So corruption or bad governance did not affect adversely his influence. And the demonstration effect was from Kashmir to Punjab to Haryana, UP, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, to some extent Orissa, Andhra. Even the conventionally more structured parties which were non-caste based, families took proprietary interest of parties. So parties became a heritable institution. The vote was accordingly transferred because the vote came from one community or one base. And therefore, this is the shift. One of the largest, one of the most significant changes in Indian politics today has been that for us to expect that the power vests in the government and the Prime Minister is the chief executive of that power, there now is a situation where power has spread. There's a spread of power, and not merely in terms of democratic institutions from parliament to panchayat. The civil society demonstrated its power, the judges are demonstrating their power, the media demonstrates its power, the opposition in parliament demonstrates its power. The government, of course, is the repository of a lot of power. The National Advisory Committee also has power. So there is a spread of power which is taking place.